Good morning, guys. It is Tuesday, January 9th, 2024. This is Bathrobe Business. I got my coffee. Let's jump into the news. Let's start with the market. The Dow Jones is currently down 186 points. S&P is down 26. Nasdaq is 135. Crypto, which I don't normally mention, but I will today, rises above 47,000 for the first time since April 2022, as more discussions of the ETF are on the horizon. More or less the legalization or the standardization of Bitcoin. That's going to be an interesting story of if that develops. I think it's not even an if, it's just when. And when that happens, probably Bitcoin will skyrocket. I'm not a crypto guy, but even I'm looking at it and thinking maybe I should buy. Our favorite indicator, gold. It's settled back at 2045. Yesterday, I reported that gold had fallen below that baseline for the first time in, I think, 3 or 4 weeks, but it is back at the 2045 baseline. It is not going down again. As we've said before, that's always a troublesome indicator because when gold is above 2000, it means something bad is going on in the economy. It's like a temperature. The economy is running a temperature that isn't good. To the main stories of the day. I've got a couple stories to report on tech. So tech is still getting slammed. So Unity Software, which is a computer company that essentially allows for gaming engines. So if you were to develop a game, you are using their software to run the engines that do the actual heavy lifting. So they are laying off 1,800 employees, or 25% of the staff. And that's on top of the 600 employees that they laid off back in May, which at the time was 8% of their staff. So they are downsizing considerably. At the same time, they are raising their prices for their services. Even though they turned a profit, I think their net profit margins are incredibly tight, so this is why it's coming. But it's just another indicator of the tech sector getting slammed again. Samsung also is looking at a 35% drop in operating profit for the fourth quarter of 2023. This is a multifold reason of why this is happening. Part of it is just sales. So sales of phones, sales of laptops. iPhone themselves also had problems with moving phones in the fourth quarter, but also just basic operation of their semiconductors. So they build a lot of the RAM chips and a lot of the memory chips and don't have the most efficient operation. And that is what's leading to this drop, is the fact that their operations aren't as efficient, and any issues with that operating process leads to a net loss and then just clear cut sales. The biggest story of the day is what's going on with the Biden administration. So the Biden administration is looking to curb gig contracting, or gig work, subcontractor work, across the entire economy. This is a controversial move. I believe California passed this back in 2022, where they have very strict gig laws. It did not end up applying to companies like Uber and Lyft, but it did apply to a lot of different companies across the spectrum. So California's law is definitely the most rigorous. Essentially what it says is you're defaulted as an employee unless you can prove otherwise that you are a gig worker, that you have your own hiring and firing, you have your own company essentially, that you do not interfere with the normal hiring of whatever said company is using you at the time. So let's say I was going to hire someone, but I hire you to do the job as a subcontractor instead, then that would interfere with their subcontracting gig work law. This isn't that strict. There's also a third tenet to that law, but I can't remember it now. This isn't as strict as the California law. This is more of a regulatory rule, but it's definitely going to crack down on a number of industries. It is yet unclear how strict they're going to be, because essentially the policy is, we're just going to be more strict with looking at people and companies that are violating the subcontractor law. So that's the story that's going to develop in the coming weeks. Last story of the day, just the short and sweet today, is Norway. So Norway is set to become the first country in the world to approve deep sea mining. I didn't even know that was possible, but it makes a lot of sense. There is some irony here. So environmental groups are up in arms over this, and I'm not saying that's wrong. But what is interesting is the entire reason for doing this is for environmental reasons. So deep sea mining is mainly being used to mine heavy metals, magnesium, cobalt, copper, which are all necessary in EVs and electrifying the grid into less petroleum. So all this metal has to come from somewhere, and Norway is looking to be the first country to do it in the sea. This isn't going to mean immediate mining is going to begin. All this is it opens up the ability of contracts. So it's going to pass more than likely because it's got dual approval from the two major parties in Norway. It's probably set to pass here in the next couple of months, and then once that happens, companies can then apply for mining licenses and proceed from there. So we're probably a good 5-10 years away from this becoming a major story, but this is a bit of a turning point as they are the first country to do this. And it'll be interesting if they do this, how long it'll be until other countries follow suit. I could see Russia moving forward with this very aggressively, potentially China as well, and then we'll see what happens here in the U.S. That's the last story of the day. I got to get to work, so I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Hope you have a productive day.